Greetings and salutations from our CitrusTV studio. Welcome to another episode of BTB. No, it's not Beat the Bow Tie because I already won, but it is Beat the Bookie. And degenerates never fear, Max Gifford is here for all your betting cheer. All right, let's get away from the rhyme and get to the risk. But before old Max makes you a millionaire, let's remind you of how Josh Richie Rich Richardson did. The dude I think does this for a living, but you wouldn't know it based on the hole he burned in the pockets of the Beat the Bookie this past week. His show is now in twice as worse shape as it was a week ago. I've got the red blazer on in studio right now, and it seems like our hosts are on a hunt for Red October. Between Josh, Arnoff, Jared, and Nico, I guess we know why the Citrus budget took a hit this year. Where's Adam Cohen when you need him? If you know, you know. I know, though, it's time to get back in the green, so let's beat the bookie.
Hey, Jared, you better yell! Show me the money! Show me the money!
It's a loaded slate of games, and I've got a slate of bets to get you loaded. And we start off with our big games of the week, and where else would we start but the whiteout? Number 3, Penn State. Number 6, Oregon. Happy Valley. Nighttime. What more do I need to say? Well, two words being tied to this tilt have also been James Franklin and Big Game. But come on now, let's think about this for a second. The Nittany Lions are 13-8 in official whiteout games. That includes 6 consecutive wins in such contests since 2019. Guess what? I know James Franklin sucks against top 10 opponents. 4-20, if you were curious. But does this not seem like one of those games that would be built up as a big one? Ryan Day will have his way with Franklin down the line, but as Oregon said at the Black Gate, it is not this day. Franklin's also called the whiteout game the superior form of Christmas. And while Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks are green, I don't think they're the Grinch. I also think the O is a little overrated. I'm picking Penn State to cover the 3.5-point spread in prime time. Let's make our way to the Magnolia Bowl, where 13th ranked Ole Miss hosts 4th ranked LSU. But first, it would be a disservice not to mention the mind games that have gone on and made this game a whole lot more interesting. The picture you see next to me is none other than Landry Kiffin, Rebels head coach Lane Kiffin's daughter, if you didn't connect the dots. But you might be asking, who's the guy next to her that looks like me if I had blonde hair, a mustache, or muscles? Well, it's none other than LSU linebacker Whit Weeks. And I think I speak for all of America when I quote his Instagram comment on her hard launch post of the two this week. Nice, dude. Here's a shock. Theta Chi's finest, Coach Kiffin, couldn't resist responding to the post, replying with a simple but maybe even religious message for us here at Beat the Bookie this week. Take the over. Unfortunately, Lane, we're only doing spreads. But we also learned Landry will be rooting for the Rebs. My result? Well, gosh almighty. I'm going with Hottie Toddy minus 1.5. I'd still love to be a fly either way at the Kiffin household for the dinner later that night. We'll advance on to Athens, where number 17 Alabama and number 5 Georgia go at it. I know lots of people are locking onto memories of that crazy Crimson Tide win in Tuscaloosa last season, but I don't need to think about this too much. Do I pick DeBoer or the guy that hasn't lost a home game since 2019? You don't need to be Kirby to be smart, but you'd be dumb not to back the dogs. Minus 2.5. Sick 'em. Let's take a look at how the C-suite compares to my picks. No shocker, both of us going with Penn State, kind of a rarity. It's a great picture of me, by the way, holding up the fours with the sunglasses. And it seems that we're in pretty much perfect alignment with the exception of Alabama covering against Georgia. I understand that Kalen DeBoer is 1-0 against Kirby Smart, and Kirby Smart is only won one game against Alabama ever, and that was in the SEC Championship. But I do feel like the Dogs get it done in the Dog Pound on Saturday. But now it's time for my best bets of the week, best bets. And we start in Stillwater, where I'm not a man, I'm 22. But Oklahoma State is my Gundy list for the first time in this show's existence. Just don't tell Adam Hipsky that. Coach Gundy did a lot of good for that Cowboys program, but I don't think his pokes pull it together against Baylor this week. Mike Gundy wasn't the only glaring issue, and I have a feeling Sawyer Robertson is going to steamroll Oklahoma State. Back-to-back sickums from me. This time, $10 on the Bears to embarrass by 21 points. From the Sooner to the Sunflower State, another Big 12 battle is brewing between Cincinnati and Kansas. The Jayhawks have just allowed 24 total points across games against teams not named Missouri this season. KU's also cashed in over 30 points per game. That makes me believe Kansas minus 4.5 could cash out for us with $10 on the table. Go Midwest after all anyways. And if I haven't made it plainly obvious already, I am a sucker for the home team. That's going to change over my final few picks because in Cowbell country, number 15 Tennessee clashes with Mississippi State. The Vols have 40-plus points in all 4 of its games so far. So it doesn't take a little birdie for me to tell you the Bulldogs aren't keeping pace. The spread is only 7.5, so let's spend $10 on Rocky Top to topple the Bulldogs. To the Cathedral of Kyle Field for this next pick. Number 9 Texas A&M is back after a bye week to host Auburn. The Aggies have had ample time off after a big-time upset in South Bend. Whereas for the Tigers, it's been no rest for the weary. Auburn quarterback Jackson Arnold was a competitive fourth quarter away from a win in his old barn last week. The Tigers also trailed by only 3 points heading into the final frame. And that's despite the fact the SEC referees screwed them earlier in that game. Something tells me the officiating crew, after issuing an apology, may have to script this game differently. I've got $10 on the Tigers and War Eagle to cover the 6.5 point spread. All right, it wouldn't be a Max Gifford Beat the Bookie without a moment to recognize the Sig 10 and the glory of old Indiana. I'm not wearing the candy stripers this show, but it should be known that the Hoosiers have only lost twice since I was previously on this program. And it was against the 2 teams who played for the national championship. Kurt Cignetti just blew out the number 9 team in the country, and all of a sudden, now people believe he's legit. I don't care if I've drank too much of the cream and crimson Kool-Aid. This was, and still technically is, the losingest college football program ever, so excuse me for lauding. The line could be $1 billion, and I'd still find a way to believe. But instead, I've got $10 for Indiana to cover the 7.5 point spread over Iowa. For my future, let's first flash back to last October. I'll turn it over to my fellow tall guy, Austin Barrick.
I'm keeping it simple. The Chiefs, sadly, are winning the Super Bowl. The haters will say this is a boring pick. I say sometimes boring is better. If boring is a dynasty, then so it is, right? It's so painfully obvious, as I get a lump in my throat, that the Chiefs are this era's version of the Patriots dynasty. They are such a well-run organization. They have the best quarterback in the league by far. I'm taking Patrick Mahomes in any single game, in any playoff game, against any single opponent. Just that easy, right?
Well, AB, we certainly don't miss your bets at the desk. But this next quote is something that would be straight out of his notes app. The past is kind enough to give you lessons. The present is kind enough to give you opportunities. And the future is kind enough to give you both. I learned from Austin's past that it's okay to not have the sexiest pick. And I have the opportunity right now in the present to bet the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. I won't do that because you may not believe the kid from Missouri, but I am not a Chiefs fan. I am a fan of making money though, and the AFC is always going to be the Patrick Mahomes sweepstakes. Records aside, injuries aside, even ages aside, why gamble against greatness when you can revel in it with a reward? Which, by the way, will be even more lucrative than that Super Bowl bet AB had 11 months ago. I'm taking the Chiefs to win the AFC Championship at plus 700. I feel as good about this bet as I feel about Josh Richardson's Cal Raleigh MVP future. What a week it's been for Big Dumper. 60 homers and an AL West Division title for the first time since 2001. That's special stuff. And I really hope that hits. Speaking of Austin Barrick, though, brutal beat. That Red Sox wild card also means you have officially reached UNC status. I'm also just realizing this show may have been the genesis of Ian Nicholas's clip farming. That Jeremiah Smith bet isn't paying out anytime soon. On the bright side at least, Nico didn't pick the Sacramento Kings to win anything and got his loss out of the way early. As far as Arnoff is concerned, that's about as fitting of a pick as you could predict from another Midwest kid, I guess. Picking the Chiefs is also pro-Midwest, but remember, it's a pro-money pick. Bills fans, save yourself some heartbreak and at least allow yourself to get paid for your pain and suffering. All right, let's put the cherry on top of this chaotic week of college football with my parlay. For my first leg, I have a bet half a century in the making for you. Arizona and TCU taking on each other for the first time since 1975. Only fitting that for the first game between the teams in over 50 years, the over-under is also just about 50. 54.5 to be exact. But I have a feeling if both offenses show up, both these teams in this game could put up 55 points by themselves. I've got the Sun Devils and the Horned Frogs going over for pick number 1. One game we haven't mentioned yet, though, is number 24 Notre Dame dueling with Arkansas for the first time ever. A 4.5-point spread for the Fighting Irish is certainly deceiving to me, and I have a bad feeling Vegas knows something I don't. What I do know is that Notre Dame is the darling of college football, and one more loss means the end of its playoff dreams. If you're a sicko like me, you'll smile when that happens. I just don't see a world where a Marcus Freeman team isn't relevant by the end of week 5. So I'm taking the Priests to cover against the Piggies minus 4.5. I know I may get some hate for this last pick, but where our Beat the Bookie budget is at right now, betting with our minds has to be a thing of the past. Just a week ago, I couldn't stop hearing enough about how Illinois is a CFP contender. All of a sudden, one blowout later, nobody thinks the Illini have any fight in them anymore. Do I think they should have been a top 10 team? No, I do not. Do I think one Memorial Stadium to another makes a difference? No, I do not. Am I still going with Illinois money line against number 21 USC? You bet your bottom dollar I am. This show needs a spark, and this parlay is set to pay out big should the scriptwriters be on my side. That's nearly $97 you can take to your bank account when it's all said and done. You see, Illinois is so good in this, it's minus plus 198. They're plus 198, but they know that it should be minus because Illinois is going to beat the Trojans. There's just no question about it. All right, let's take one last look at my picks for today. Again, the big games of the week. I got Penn State covering in the whiteout game. They've won 6 straight. Pick the Nittany Lions. LSU versus Ole Miss. I think Landry Kiffin gets the upper hand here against her boyfriend. Minus 1.5 for the Rebs. And then Kirby Smart gets his second win ever against Alabama. He puts down the demons of last season. So we have $10 on all of those 3. Then my best bets, I got Baylor covering by over 3 touchdowns against Oklahoma State. I've got Kansas minus 4.5 against Cincinnati. And then Tennessee by over a touchdown over Mississippi State. Auburn not losing by a touchdown against Texas A&M. And Indiana covering at Kinnick Stadium against Iowa. The future, it'll take a while to settle, but the Chiefs are winning the AFC. Everyone needs to understand that that is how it's going to work. It's Patrick Mahomes is to lose every year. Back the bet. It'll save you a lot of money. And then my parlay, TCU, ASU over, Notre Dame covering against Arkansas, and Illinois moneyline over USC. That about wraps up our coverage here on Beat the Bookie. I want to give a big thank you to our producers, Griffin Bloomstein and Adam Hipsky. Let's make some money this weekend, folks, even though I'm wearing the red, white, and blue, and the USA is not winning anything in the Ryder Cup soon.